Welcome to Erudite, the panel discussion on contemporary issues of higher education being organized by the AP State Council of Higher Education. Learning beyond the classroom is today's theme for our panel discussion. Usually, the learning for a higher education student starts and ends within the classroom. But however, with the changing scenario, with the changing ecosystem of the entire teaching learning process, learning beyond the classroom has been an equal and a univocal concern of both the teacher and the taught. So, going beyond the four walls of the classroom is being practiced in most of the Western countries. And in AP State, for the first time, the revised choice-based curriculum under the aegis of the AP State Council of Higher Education had rolled out community service project, internships, on-the-job training, life skill courses, learning beyond the classroom with reference to online learning, going for the massive open online courses, and in case of engineering education, maybe we have different type of humanities courses on humanities, and also several type of major and minor electives. So, all the educators and the educational administrators are quite aware of the importance of learning beyond the classroom. We have with us three panelists: Professor K. Rama, Vice Chairman, AP State Council of Higher Education; Professor Prasada Raju, Honorable Vice-Chancellor of Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, Kakinada; and Mrs. Kiran Sethi with us to discuss on these particular issues relating to learning beyond the classroom. As I said, the AP State Council of Higher Education had redesigned and revamped the entire conventional as well as the professional educational system of the state of Andhra Pradesh under the leadership of Professor K. Rama garu. As Vice Chairman and as the Director of the Quality Assurance Cell, he had been at the helm of affairs of redesigning the curriculum so that the learning is not happening only within the four walls of the classroom. As I said, there are community service projects, there are internships, there are what are called as life skill courses, skill development courses, skill enhancement courses, etc. And we have Professor G.V.R. Prasada Raju, the Honorable Vice-Chancellor of JNTU Kakinada, an administrator come technology technocrat, and who is at the helm of affairs of the spearheading the professional education under the one of the major technological university of the state of Andhra Pradesh, Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University at Kakinada. And we have with us Mrs. Kiran Sethi, a founder of an unique educational institution at Ahmedabad. And this education of Mrs. Sethi focuses on creating an environment which nurtures a spirit of curiosity and also opportunities for exploration of the spirit of what is called as community service. So, with these three panelists, we will go ahead with our panel discussion, learning beyond the classroom. May I now request Professor K. Rama garu to throw some light on today's theme, learning beyond the classroom.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Srirangam Matthews, respected co-panelists, and my dear student friends. I am very happy to take part in this panel discussion on a very, very important theme called learning beyond classroom. Learning must be holistic and it should contribute for the development of the personality of the student and to make every student capable of generating economic resources for the future and also to lead a very comfortable, enriching, happy life. So, that kind of outcome need to be achieved during the study period, where the major part of the learning is given to the student. And at present, the present education system is focusing on classroom teaching learning process predominantly, and beyond the classroom learning process is not widely focused, as already mentioned in the introductory remarks Srirangam Mathews, that in the Western system now learning beyond the classroom is predominantly practiced, and in our Indian system still we are making the students totally confined to the classroom education. But if you look at the historical perspectives of the India, we used to have a system called Gurukula, wherein the learning is focused beyond the classroom. Very limited hours is the conditioned environment, the learning in a conditioned environment, but the students are made to open to learn life skills and also societal skills more prominently, so that by the time the student comes out of Gurukulam, the student used to gain a lot of confidence to face whatever challenges that emerge in future, and also used to gain the sociable skills, so that a most harmonious, balanced life they used to lead, and that is the outcome we used to have it. And now under the current system of environment, why the students should go for learning beyond classroom? First thing is the changing perspectives during 21st century, demanding more and more skills and also upskilling continuously. So, every skill that is required cannot be part of the curriculum. So, when we talk about classroom learning, we should look at the limitations of the curriculum design and the pedagogical processes and the time constraints that the institutions are having in interacting with the students. Now, we have technology intervention, many resources are open, and the demands in the environment are increasing day by day. So, unless the students expand their learning environment from classroom to the beyond the classroom, at home or any part of any time that they can spend on, they cannot be ready to face challenges that are emerging. So, upscaling knowledge and acquiring competencies and skills demanded what we call as 21st century skills. One has to look beyond classroom. Another most important quality now the current environment is demanding is the right kind of personality development. So, for the personality development, it is not a classroom teaching and training, but the candidate or the student, whether a boy or a girl, should learn from the society, should learn from the interactions that they make it with family, friends, experts and all that. So, that kind of how they can learn the society, how they can understand the society, from that how they can modify their behavior and personality, how they can inculcate values and ethics. Values and ethics cannot be taught, they have to be experienced. Why a particular thing should be treated as a value and how they can take them. So, that kind of experiential learning is a very important learning which the student gets exposed when they are interacting with nature, they are interacting with the society, they are interacting with different kinds of people, and when they are exposed to diversity, and those experiences becomes learnings, and the student will have a lifelong knowledge asset can be created with these kind of experiences. So, the asset, knowledge asset that the student is acquiring with these kind of experiential learnings, they make and promote wisdom in an individual. So, they can respond in a right way, they can take a right decision, and they can prevail over a situation positively, convincing the entire environment. So, another dimension is that now the society, the industry and the business is demanding multi-skilling. So, one discipline may not be sufficient to have or to satisfy the aspirations of the students. So, they need to have multi-skilling. Now, the technology is providing ample opportunities to the students to go for multi-skilling. So, the online programs are there, through that they can make it, and they can extend or expand the learning horizons beyond the curriculum, beyond the classroom instruction, if they look at for learning things. Another important learning one is expecting now is the transactional skills. Unless otherwise, the people interact with experts and others, they cannot learn how to say be more effective and efficient in transactional skills. So, that is a wonderful skill. The students should not confine themselves to the book reading or to a few video games or online say charting and all that. They should interact with people, they should understand the body language of the people, reactions and responses of the people, and should test themselves whether they could able to win over through right kind of conversational abilities, transactional abilities. That is another important aspect. Then beyond the classroom, another demand is multicultural learning systems. So, now the world is open, the students have to interact with many people of different cultures, different religions, different regions, that is the diversity in the system. So, the student can nurture those kinds of skills beyond the classroom. And another important thing is they have to work out a methodology wherein they can optimize the utilization of the time. So, how the time available can be allocated to different needs of a person, and how we can optimize the value of time. So, one time is student in the classroom, and a lot of time is remained with the student, and how that time can be used for addressing personal needs, relationship needs, career needs, like. So, they have to learn and experiment themselves and get into the perfection of time management issues, and they should find an opportunity to interact with intellectuals, experts in different areas, and learn from them what kind of life patterns can make them to have an enriched value in life. After all, ultimately we are looking for providing an idea or a method or the way through which a person can have a highly qualitative lifestyle, and which makes the value for him, value to the family, and value to the society. And again, one last thing I wanted to mention, whatever you learn, whatever a student gains the knowledge or anything, when that is shared with others, that is also one dimension, a learning approach, sharing is learning. While sharing you can learn, and you can also enrich yourself in that area. So many things that a student can do beyond the classroom, which makes and contributes for building a personality which is holistic and also enriching, and that makes a student ready to face emerging challenges in future. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Maybe taking a cue from your opening remarks, I have a question to Mrs. Sethi. Sir was talking about experiential learning. Now, what could be the strategies that could be implemented for experiential learning in case of higher education? Mrs. Sethi.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting us. And while I was listening to Sir, I think I have a fundamental problem when we say learning outside the class is a Western idea, not an Indian idea. I don't think learning outside the class is any geography or any politics, right? The point of the matter remains that all of us know that when children learn, and I keep thinking that you all are talking about college, you're talking about higher ed, and I keep thinking for 15 years of our children's life, we keep them in classroom and we tell them keep quiet and listen. Okay, and we don't do it for one day or one month. We say for 15 years, you keep quiet and you obey what we say. And then we get surprised that our children are not empowered citizens of the world. You know, so I think the disconnect is not so much that we don't know and we don't understand. Sir very rightly said about the Gurukul system, etc. Nothing is rocket science. Children learn through play, children learn through interaction, children learn through collaboration. But in all our schooling for 15 years, we keep them sitting one behind the other for 15 years. And we say, please don't talk to each other, please don't discuss with each other, please only just listen. So all of it, if we know, if we've understood this for 60 years, why are we still talking about the value of learning outside the class? I'm often surprised that we think this is a new idea. It is not a new idea. We've all grown up learning through play. All of us in the first 2 years on the planet, every child is walking and talking and listening and laughing in the first 2 years and telling us, look at me, I'm learning. And then we send them to school. And when we say, now you keep quiet, now you sit down, now you stay quiet, and now you obey. So the whole contradiction in what we want our children to become and what we give them is where the disconnect is. I don't think the strategies, if I might say, you don't know. Obviously, it means engaging with real life. Obviously, it means getting out of the classroom, talking to each other. If all of us know the obvious reality and what we need to do, why are we not doing is the question. And therein lies the gap. I don't think I remember when I went to college at the NID, the National Institute of Design. I walked into that college when I was 17. And I remember breathing for the first time. I said, my God, this is what it should be. It's not about anything else. It's about the adult. I had a faculty member, I remember so clearly, we were sitting in the lawn and he leaned in to listen to me and he took my name and I thought to myself, oh my God, what is going on? Am I interesting? I didn't realize nobody had told me for 17 years that I had a mind and then I had an idea and it was important. And I kept thinking to myself, my God, at 17, I realized what the value of learning was. When at 7, our children should get it. So I think it's not rocket science. When you talk about strategies at community service, we've always done it. So at Riverside, when I started the school 21 years ago, we have a learning journey. So we don't design for the student, we design with the student. That is the first act of learning beyond the classroom. The classroom can be 4 walls, the classroom can be in the mind. But the moment you invite somebody into the conversation, you start learning. It's very simple. You don't have to have internship. There's everything else is a bonus. Everything else is a bonus. The very fact that you work and invite the voice of the child into decision making, learning starts. That's what I have learned. And I remember inviting the child again. In our mind, that's all. And we forget that age has nothing to do with competency. So age, gender, demographics, we have to remove these filters from our mind. And suddenly the children will learn. So everything we add is bonus. I take you for a visit is a bonus. I take an internship, it is a bonus. I do this. At the heart of it is the voice of the child. The invitation, not imposition, invitation. Our children never know why they're learning. They never know. They walk into a classroom and they're told what to do. And if you ask them why they're doing this, they say, teacher told me, or the faculty told me. When are they going to say, I am learning this because this is why it is important? So relevance, so everything else of the classroom, in and out of the classroom is unimportant. Is relevance there in the learning? Are relationships part of the learning? And is rigor purposeful? We keep looking at it. Remember when we were young, we talked about the 3 R's, writing, reading, and arithmetic. That used to be the old 3 R's. But the new 3 R's is relevance. Does a child know why they are learning? Relationships, do they know who they are and why this is important? And rigor, purposeful. Am I doing excellence? For me, it is these 3 things that make learning happen. It's not necessary, and it can happen under a tree. It can happen in a classroom. It can happen anywhere. But if these 3 ingredients are there in every learning, magic happens. And then children, like what Sir said, all the skills are learned. You're able to interact with confidence. You're confident with uncertainty. It doesn't matter then. The only truth that Corona has given us is that the world is going to be uncertain. That's the only truth. And our children do not know how to adapt to this uncertainty and make sense of it. It doesn't matter what internships they go for. It has to happen here. It has to here in the heart and in the mind. So for me, those are the magic ingredients of how learning happens. So that's what I have learned through all my years.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Sethi, for your inputs. Now, your own 3 R's. Now, these 3 R's, your own 3 R's can be practiced, maybe offline. Now, during this COVID,
online, in
yes,
no problem.
How do you envisage how you have managed with your 3 R's? Maybe when when the student is at home learning through online programs during this particular COVID pandemic, how did you ensure those 3 R's?
A simple thing. Even when you have an online thing and you have to get them to learn about chemistry, okay, you want to learn about distillation, it really doesn't matter. We never start the session with why and who. We say, what will you learn and how will I do it? The fact that relevance is about why. All the theories of brain will tell you that children will learn if they understand meaning, if there's purpose and meaning in the learning, right? It's so simple. But when the pedagogy or when the teacher walks into the class, her conversation is open chapter 3, let's start. Are it chapter 3 for what? What is it for? How will I learn it outside? So the relevance part is the why, showing them where it matters, how in life you will see this, how will you apply it. So that's the first art. Relationships, we don't smile anymore. We don't decide. So I keep saying the teacher's body is a curriculum. The way I will smile, the way I will invite you, my tone of voice, my this thing. Because children might not listen to you, but they will always imitate you. So what are they imitating? Right? So your body is a curriculum. We don't smile. Relationships are not formed. We don't start by asking the child how they are. It starts with subject. I will teach you, but I will not reach you. And then rigor. Why homework? For what? What is the purpose of the practice you're doing? Do we talk about excellence? Do we talk about craftsmanship? We don't talk about that. We just say complete 500 words. So it is very, I would say, no, it's just a mindset shift in the pedagogy. And then you will find that it really doesn't matter how much of the time is outside of the class, as long as there's meaning within the learning. So that those 3 hours, like I said, are not rocket science. They're not mine. It is just the learnings I've had over time, in the theories I have learned, in the practices I've seen. It's so simple. And yet we walk into a class and say, this is it, open chapter 3, this is coming for the test. The test has never been the reason to learn, huh? It's never been the reason to learn. So we tell our children, you are markable, but you are not remarkable. Bas, mark karo, grade karo, ho gaya khatam. Where do we talk about the plurality? Where do we talk about the child's personality, what they love doing, who they are, what their interests are? There's no space in the curriculum for that. So it's just that little shift that comes in, and I witnessed it. I remember experiencing it when I went to NID, the National Institute of Design. I said, oh my God, this is wonderful. This is how I should feel. This is how learning should be. It should keep you alive. It should make you want to do work. So I think it's just that simple shift in the mind that I have seen that makes all the skills will happen after that. Everything you want them to learn will be a follow-up because they want to do it, not because they have to do it. That's the difference.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Sethi. Now going to Professor G.V.R. Prasada Raju, the Honorable Vice-Chancellor of JNTU Kakinada. Sir, how do you envisage this technical education, learning of technical education, making it beyond the classroom?
Thank you very much, Mathew Garu, and I also thank our good friend Professor Rama Garu, the Vice Chancellor, State Council of Education, and Madam Kiran Sethi. And this is excellent topic. This is very useful topic. And before that, because I heard the Rama Garu and also Madam Sethi, couple of very, very small issues. And for example, we have kids. And I have interacted many number of students during the APSCHE counseling or during their career development. For example, some of the students, they were asking, at the time they were asking some questions, important questions. Sir, I am interested in a branch of electrical engineering. Whereas my parents, they wanted me to go for computer science engineering. Something like that. So, and the parents, the initial stages itself, the parents should be given freedom for their children to take up any assignment, to take up any education. For example, the student is very much interested in civil engineering because he might have impressed with huge high-rise buildings, etc., or dams, etc. And he must be given a choice for taking an important branch of engineering for his career growth. That is one aspect. Just I am also fully convinced with Madam Sethi and also Professor Rama Garu. For example, and we have in the curricula, even though we have included the practical application along with the theoretical approach for each and every subject for under each unit, but the senior professors like Rama Garu, even myself, will be discussing with them what is the concept behind this chapter. What is the role of this chapter for practical application, and what are the case studies we require to understand this particular chapter? We'll not go with theory. We'll start with the practical application and practical approach to that particular chapter. For example, it is a civil engineering branch. There is a surveying topic is there. So the surveying topic will start with the application part, and how exactly it is required to take up the survey or the contour maps for a new site or for any built-up site, and we'll start the study for each chapter from the field normally. That is required. Even the best teacher or the teacher, usually you should take up the unit or the study from the application part. For example, we might be discussing some irrigation dams in a classroom. So it should come from a real dam, not a model. We can also take them into the field and you can show them what exactly dam, what is the purpose of the dam. Instead of telling that in the classroom number of times, suppose if you could visualize or imagine and what, how the dam and what are the functions of the dam, how you can expect a power generation, etc. For example, if you take a pipe which carries water from high level to low level, the diameter of that is, they might be thinking that is 30 centimeters or 40 centimeters, etc. It is normally a 6 meters pipe which carries water from high level to low level. And if you could see, for example, I have taken the civil engineering students to the field. I have explained them very clearly that they have fascinated and they are very much interested to know, provided if you give opportunity for them to learn while seeing and while taking up the challenging task, and that too, that can be implemented in the theoretical part. Any good teacher, he should take up the application part and he should explain the theory with the help of practical. And the idea, for example, I have been to America or advanced countries, I have seen the education pattern, even though it is 1 or 2 minutes time on that. And a student, Stanford University went, a student will have just he is free to do any experimentation. Costly equipment or costly computers or all round computer which will be there, and the student just he will be living in that room, and he will do and he will play with all those things, and he will try to learn on his own, and he will create, the supervisors will observe him, and whether he is interested in that area, this area, that area, and finally he will be given complete training on a particular activity, and so that he can be an expert in that area, which has given a lot of a lot of technology-based education, and we started learning even at the age of 55 or whatever it is, and how to communicate online effectively to the students. And this is really a challenging problem, and you could forecast, you could face a lot of the internet problems and a lot of connectivity problems, etc. And almost we could finalize a perfect system to reach out the students even in online. Even though offline is much effective compared to online, but we could reach out some possible solution for the students to learn even in offline while taking classes. We have given gate classes, etc. And we have interacted them in different fields, different patterns. And they are really very much fascinated, and they are really impressed even about online teaching also. So these are the very, very important issues. And the interaction, you were telling that initial stages we might be controlling them, but when you are in higher education, maybe we are taking for engineering education or pharmacy education or MBA, MCA, we'll give more time for interaction also. So the students can interact themselves and they can talk to the faculty. We have a discussion session also. So we might be giving a theory or practice for some time, and we'll be asking them we'll encourage them for discussion. And sometimes they might have combined studies, and sometimes they may have group discussions, and even the students will be training them for group discussion and visual, audio, and kinesthetic learning. And also we are giving a case also. This is really effective teaching strategy that gives a promising outcome rather than simply teaching a new topic, and share with them a real life example with which they can connect it. For example, we might be taking some transportation, and I will imagine that I am on a road, and I will explain them, the teacher, I mean to say that a teacher has to explain them how exactly when you are taking a ride on a particular highway, and will be explaining them the exact signals, will be showing them the pictures, videos, etc. Now the technology is advanced, and we can show them the actual necessary issues, and so that they can learn effectively while observing the practical aspects, and they can come out the degree with human values and a proper degree and that are ready for taking up a challenging task in the industry also. Anyway, I will come back to that, and in between, these are my some of the points which I have. Anyway, I'll continue, sir. Yeah, please.
Sir, whether it is Professor Prasada Raju sir's insights or whether it is Mrs. Sethi's remarks on the entire learning beyond the classroom is focusing only on experiential learning. Now, how do you envisage making the experiential learning more enriching, more energizing for a student?
We should try to see how we can make a class to motivate, encourage and promote a student to learn beyond the classroom. It's the wonderful concept Madam Sethi has told us, the relevance, the relationships and the rigor. And another point she tried to say emphasize is that learning happens with experiences the people say encounter in the real life situations right from the childhood. But my observation is that exposure and experience and learning, these are not the same. Many people experience a particular situation, but out of that the learning depends upon the priorities, the perceptions, the knowledge levels on that particular issue earlier and the environment in which the person is there, the belief system, the value system, the traditions and other say societal dimensions. All these things make a person to understand a situation and derive some learning points from it. So, the classroom should help a student to learn a method of learning. What kind of say inferences a person has to draw from the experiences, from the situations, from the exposure that they make to different kind of situations. So, there the teacher role is predominant to enlighten a student to know how they can enrich their learning values by interpreting things in the right perspective. So, that is the key. So, when the student knows exactly what to pick up, what to understand and what to apply to himself or herself, they can economize a lot of time, optimize the value of an exposure and experience, and through that the entire process of learning beyond classroom can become more successful.
Maybe over to Prasada Raju sir.
Yeah.
Sir, see, what will be the role of teachers, sir? Role of teachers in taking the learning process beyond the classroom?
Yeah. And few effective methods rather to improve the student in learning if applied in the right way. So, the one is active method. So, active method means anyway I will come to that, the online interaction, and whether it is offline or online interaction, the active method is interaction. Normally what is happening in some of the particularly pertain to some of the teachers, they keep on telling something and they are not allowing the others to involve in discussions. And the other one is a cooperative method. One is active method, the other one is cooperative method, allowing group discussions. Not only between one and one should allow group discussions, and the right topic can be taken with a group, and one can participate in the discussion. Even a teacher or the mentor can participate in the discussions, and he can see which topic he is discussing and how one can ignite their minds in the right direction. And third one is visual, audio and kinesthetic learning. And fourth one is, I have already discussed, the case method, that is a practical approach. And the fifth one is a flipped classroom by following NP, TEL courses, etc. And the sixth one is brainstorm. It is excellent, it is good to include some brainstorming sessions in the classroom. You need to allow discussions, you need to what exactly the student is thinking, and some of the ideas, for example, you might not know, and they are really good. Distributed practice, another area, online tools, student ideas, practice testing, encourage them in practical perspective, prompt feedback. What is happening is we are not focusing on the feedback which is really required for updating the skills of the students, and we need to update the faculty. In addition to that, we need allow them, the student, to update their knowledge. Prompt feedback and time management also results in student learning. These are some of the ideas, even beyond classroom, or even during the COVID-19 also. The technology plays a vital role, and we are forced, rather the teachers and students, they are forced to adopt the technology not by choice, but as an essential requirement for the education system smooth functioning. And many challenges related to lack of knowledge about the use of technology by both students and faculties, difficulty finding and selecting a suitable platform for online class delivery, cost of the license, and issues related to the infrastructure, unavailability of the internet in remote areas. We need to address some of the issues, all because we have been suffering that situation from the last 2 years. We could be able to solve some of the important issues, but still there were some issues which we need to focus on that.
In my assessment and my opinion, society is the biggest platform for learning. The students, they get into formal learning in the institutions within the four walls of classroom or in the hostels that they live. But when they come out of that, the society offers great learning for them. So, students have to explore the opportunities of learning in the society. I advise them, try to take out some time every quarter or every half yearly, move out of your house, move out of your comfort zone of the region, then go and interact with people, study the nature, study the people, their culture, their behaviors, their root causes, and the kind of practices and the reasons for those practices. It is not necessary to visit the famous locations in the world. You have very closely, without much expenditure, you can go to a village, a tribal location, or some place where, as already mentioned by the panelists, you have to interact. Interaction is learning, and you can modify your thinking thought process, you can modify your value process, and you can become more, say, an acceptable personality, more a personality who can enrich the society with the kind of interactive experiences that you gain while connecting with people of diversity. Connect with different cultures, different nationals, different, say, region groups, and that makes the learning more enriching. So, take society as your experimental field, as your learning platform, and every time the society is a dynamically changing, and understand the changes in that and see the reasoning out, and what is right, what is wrong, how the rights and wrongs are changing over time and why. That is a learning process. So, we have so many traditions earlier which were considered very, very essential for the society. Now, the same traditions became illegal, and we are averse to those kind of traditions, like Sethi at one point, is appreciated by the society, now it is a criminal act. So, treatment of women in many facets. At one point of time, the no education to the woman is appreciated in the society, no leadership roles to the woman is appreciated in the society, but now the values got changed, the perceptions got changed. So, the change patterns, that is also not totally, the entire world has not changed. Still there are islands where certain kinds of practices is valued, and in some other islands that kind of practices are not valued. So, this is a learning ground, this is an exposure. So, you have a very wide world with you, and you are now connected to the world, and you have to get connected to the world. So, you have to learn about the world. So, that is definitely you have to go beyond classroom in your learning process.
Thank you, sir. Learning beyond the classroom. Today's panel discussion had focused on several issues, several contemporary things that could be brought in to make the learning or take the learning beyond the classroom. We have started with Professor Rama sir saying about the 21st century skills. Now, these 21st century skills cannot be learned within the classroom, not all the 21st century skills. So, if the focus is on holistic development, all-round personality development of a student, maybe learning beyond the classroom is inevitable. And also, sir has said about multi-skilling. When we are going towards multi-skilling aspects, aspiration of the student, requirement of the world of work, the multi-skilling is very much required, and multi-skilling cannot be learned within the four walls of the classroom. And multiculturalism, really that is one of the good point wherein a student should be aware of multiculturalism and should be not only making himself aware, but should be involved in learning multiculturalism. And Mrs. Sethi has brought out the 3 R's, the relevance, the rigor and relationships. So, with the rigor, relevance and relationships, if these are addressed, maybe at an early age itself, maybe the learning goes beyond the classroom, and the learner becomes an active learner or a lifelong learner. And Professor Prasada Raju sir has focused on mainly on making the learning more practical oriented. And Professor Prasada Raju sir has rightly pointed out the role of the faculty. Faculty need to make the learning process active. Faculty needs to make the learning process collaborative. Faculty needs to make the learning participative. Now, with all these strategies, with all the points that have been discussed during this particular panel discussion, maybe will emphasize and enlighten for taking the learning beyond the classroom. On behalf of the AP State Council of Higher Education, I place on record my sincere gratitude to Mrs. Sethi, to Professor G.V.R. Prasada Raju sir, as well as Professor K. Rama garu for taking their time out and being with us and discussing the most important aspect of the present day learning environment, learning beyond the classroom. Thank you one and all.